Chapter 1960 Giant Octopus 2. The burning of Bingyan absorbs all the energy around it, so once it touches the enemy, it will drain the opponent's body of supernatural powers and quickly turn it into a shell. Zhang Yi once said after witnessing Suzaku's abilities that this person's abilities would become extremely terrifying once she broke through to the Epsilon realm. Because this is the ability to plunder energy indiscriminately. The octopus's arm was frozen. At first, it thought it was just a simple freeze, but soon it realized something was wrong, because when the icy blue cold air enveloped its arm, the strength in its body was rapidly dissipating. Not only is the body temperature dropping rapidly, but also the supernatural powers, physical strength, and mental strength are decreasing. Moo! In a rage, the octopus actually let out a low and distant roar like an old cow. It stirred its 8 arms vigorously, and the surrounding sea water suddenly became chaotic, and a huge ocean current began to stir with it as the center. Zhu Ke immediately staggered in the water and was almost sucked over. Careful, Xuanwu reminded. After all, they are surface creatures, and there will be many inconveniences for them to enter the sea. Clear. The wings behind Suzaku vibrated, and he tried his best to increase the distance between himself and the giant octopus. But it was different with Li Changgong. Instead of keeping his distance, he took the opportunity to move closer to the giant octopus. He turned the knife in his hand and aimed it at the giant octopus's arm, which was as huge as a stone pillar of Mount Tai, and chopped it down with one blow. I am God's will. Everything is broken. His knife slashed across, and the giant octopus hit him back with its backhand. However, at the moment of contact, it was not Li Changgong who was blown away, but the octopus arm as thick as a hill that was actually cut off. The huge cross-section was as big as a house, with blue blood gushing out. The blow hurt the octopus. It couldn't understand why its tough body was cut off by such a tiny life form. You know, all deep-sea monsters must have a strong enough body to withstand the terrifying water pressure of the deep sea. Success. This guy Go Qin, his abilities are indeed formidable. Suzaku and Xuanwu were greatly shocked. The two of them did not delay at all, and took advantage of Li Changgong's success to launch attacks one after another. Mysterious light cannon. Suzaku ice flame. The nuclear reactor in Xuanwu's body began to work. After combining technology and ruthlessness, his combat capability reached an extremely terrifying level. Underwater, he is comparable to a bishop. A deep blue light spurted out of its mouth and shot towards the giant octopus's head like a sword. The cold current of Suzaku also unfolded magnificently in front of her. The cold air formed a huge Suzaku, which spread its wings and flew slowly forward, sweeping away all the energy and vitality around it as it passed. This move is only effective in the deep sea. If it happens in other areas, it will cause large-scale biological deaths in an instant. Even so, large areas of volcanic magma were extinguished and dimmed due to the passage of Ice Prison Suzaku. The 3 powerful men joined forces to attack as quickly as possible to completely eliminate the enemy in front of them and then share the fruits on the giant volcanic tree. At this time, the giant octopus finally realized the terrifying power of the 3 strange creatures in front of it. Its body whoosh retreated and entered the volcanic ash. It is hard to imagine that such a huge creature can be so flexible. The twisted, boneless body easily avoided the attack of Xuanwu, and the icy flame of Suzaku slipped away. Li Changgong tightened the long sword in his hand. It was very difficult to swing the sword in the deep sea. He had to use tools to connect his wrists together, otherwise there was a risk of it slipping out of his hand. Isn't this better? We can just take those golden fruits, Suzaku said. If possible, they would not want to fight in the dangerous deep sea. It's not that simple. You don't understand these things under the sea. They are smarter than you. Xuanwu's low voice rang in the ears of the two, and his eyes revealed a very solemn look. Don't forget, according to our initial assessment, there are remains of prehistoric civilization beneath this Guishu. If the other party is an intelligent species, then how could they let us take away such an important treasure so easily? As if to confirm Xuanwu's guess, as soon as he finished speaking, a low sonata sound suddenly came from afar. There was a hoarse and mocking sound, as if an old recorder was being played by a clumsy player. The unpleasant sound entered the ears and made people feel that the whole space became distorted. Xuanwu, Zhu Ke, and Li Changgong suddenly felt that the world in front of them became strange. The devilish sound entered their ears, and they saw that everything around them was distorted. The huge basalt turned into an abstract turtle like Picasso, and even the volcano next to it turned into abstract and distorted noodles. Illusion. Hurry up and block the sound. Don't let it interfere with your brain. These people were all veterans, and they reacted immediately, thinking that this was some kind of musical illusion. But after they blocked the external sound sources, the strange feeling of the distorted world not only did not disappear, but became more obvious. Li Changgong lowered his head and looked at his body. His arms were twisted like noodles. Although he could still feel the existence of his body and exert force, he always felt that his body's resilience had been greatly weakened. Is it an illusion? Illusions are not done through music, but through other means. The giant octopus reappeared in front of them, with many round holes on its head. Sea water flowed out from the holes, creating a low and strange variation. Li Changgong and others discovered that everything around them was distorted, except the giant octopus. But it's hard to say, because octopus itself is a boneless mollusk. Li Changgong took a deep breath, then injected himself with a stimulating drug to strengthen his willpower. No matter what ability it uses, as long as its body is chopped into pieces, everything will be fine, right? Xuanwu, Suzaku, cover me. Xuanwu and Zhu Ke are both in a distorted state at this time, and have become characters in two-dimensional abstract paintings. But they can still control their bodies, but after their bodies are twisted, their movements are inevitably a little weird, and they cannot move freely. The Xianguang cannon and Bing Yan attacked the giant octopus again. Li Changgong was not in a hurry to take action, but waited for the giant octopus to reveal a gap in its defense. This time, the giant octopus did not use its soft body to dodge, but instead enlarged the holes on its head. Chapter 1961, Unspeakable. Li Changgong and others couldn't hear it, but they could feel that it was getting louder. The attacks that were supposed to go straight towards it unexpectedly turned halfway and went in other directions. This made Li Changgong, who was about to attack, stay where he was. This is a spatial ability. Only at this moment did they understand that the giant octopus was not using music illusion, but was able to use music to influence the surrounding space. In the distorted space, it can naturally avoid all attacks. This guy's ability is weird, but I can deal with it. Li Changgong did not panic. As a user with space-related abilities, he knew how to break the impasse. He held the long sword in his hand horizontally and concentrated his mental strength on one point. It's just a distortion of space, but there's no way to make yourself disappear into nothingness like chaos. In other words, your true self still exists. Then, as long as my sword hits your body, no matter what abilities you have, you will be killed by me. Xuanwu, Suzaku, find a way to help me. Restrict its movements. Xuanwu and Zhu Ke looked at each other, and now they could only trust Li Changgong. In this case, we must use a large-scale coverage attack to strike it. Xuanwu said to Li Changgong and Zhu Ke, "You step back first." Zhu Ke knew what Xuanwu was planning to do and immediately chose to retreat, with Li Changgong following closely behind. At this time, Xuanwu's huge body was swaying in the water like a donkey's skin shadow, which looked very funny. However, when he opened his mouth, a huge missile warhead emerged from his throat, which had long been converted into a railgun. The Xuanwu has the function of a nuclear submarine. It carries 20 love-death warheads. The Xuanwu alone can easily destroy any small ocean country. The love-death warhead popped out of the throat, then aimed directly in the direction of the giant octopus and fired. The flames flickered behind the missile. At the beginning, the speed was not fast, and it did not look very powerful. After just a brief acceleration, its speed became faster and faster, and finally it broke through the heavy sea water and headed straight for the giant octopus. The power of this high-yield love-death bomb is enough to directly wipe out a bishop-level alien who is not good at defense. Even a deep-sea monster with thick skin and tough flesh would inevitably be seriously injured. The key is that the explosion range is very large. Even if the space is distorted and the core point of the explosion is shifted, it will not have much impact on the result. Xuanwu came prepared, and this strike will determine his victory. Just when everyone was expecting the god of death of love to explode and severely damage the giant blue octopus, the giant octopus made an incredible move. When it saw the god of death of love, which was only a dozen meters long, it actually showed a look of fear and quickly retreated backwards while making a sound from its mouth. The moment it left, a large mass of indescribable objects suddenly emerged from a distant area and occupied the entire sea area. It was like a huge soap bubble that popped up and swallowed up the god of death of love. Bang! A violent explosion sounded, but there was no shocking scene as expected because the strong flames had not yet been released, and in the end it was forcibly wrapped and swallowed by the huge, indescribable object. Xuanwu, Zhu Ke, Li Changgong, and others were stunned. For the first time, they felt deeply shaken in their hearts. Even Xuanwu couldn't swallow a love-death that was about to explode at such a close distance. The most he could do was to retract his head and limbs into a shell, relying on his thick skin and flesh to hold on. What kind of monster appeared before my eyes? What is this? Oh no! If there really is a powerful marine civilization here, then the giant octopus is definitely not alone. It called for help. At this time, several people thought about the giant octopus's reaction to the enemy, and it was clear that it possessed a high level of intelligence. It even judged that the power of the god of death of love was too great, so it chose to escape and let its helpers deal with it. A creepy feeling surged into everyone's heart. What to do? This question popped up in the minds of the three people, but no one said it out loud. The treasure is attractive. The huge volcanic tree not far away has golden fruits on it, which exude an alluring scent. Li Changgong already had one in his pocket, and he knew how valuable this thing was. So, at this time, they were reluctant to leave. Never mind, let's fight them, Li Changgong shouted loudly. Just at this moment, this thought emerged in the minds of the three Epsilon-level mutants. Wouldn't it be better if they invited that frighteningly steady guy to join them in this operation? But it's too late to regret now. I can only rely on myself. Li Changgong raised his sword with his backhand, ready to kill the indescribable monster that suddenly appeared. But at this moment, the huge monster broke apart in an instant. Bang! There was an indescribable sound, as if a large foam monster split into countless small pieces and then quickly flew out in all directions. Suzuka said with great joy, "This guy can't withstand the power of the death of love's explosion." Xuanwu also took a deep breath and said, "I told you. How could there be such a monster in this world?" Countless fragments flew in all directions. Upon closer inspection, they turned out to be clumps of yellow sponges. Xuanwu looked at the giant volcanic tree with a fiery gaze. No one should be able to stop us now. Huh? Just as he was about to swim towards the giant volcanic tree, he suddenly felt his body tighten. It was as if an enormous sea snake had wrapped itself tightly around his body and was strangling him with great force. What's going on? Xuanwu's movements suffered great constraints, which made him overwhelmed. An urgent report came from his officers. "It's bad, Captain Xuanwu. The surface of your body is covered by a large number of unknown objects, and they are also absorbing the nuclear power in your body." Xuanwu certainly knew it. He had felt it clearly. And it wasn't just the nuclear power that was absorbed. It was all the power in his body. Li Changgong and Zhu Ke were not far away from him. They saw with their own eyes that Xuanwu's body was sucked up by countless sponges. In less than 10 seconds, the sea turtle was wrapped up like a big yellow dumpling. Xuanwu. The two's pupils shrank suddenly, and they shouted nervously. "Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all."